There we go.
You can hear me, I presume.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. Are we expecting a full House of Commissioners today?
Good morning. My apologies, everybody. So it's August 10th. This is our regularly scheduled Board of County Commissioners meeting. First thing on the agenda is public comment. We will start that just as soon as the whole team is here. We are expecting Sean today, correct?
I believe so. Well, I asked the same question and I got that. I got a tentative affirmative from Beth, so.
Okay. So in the meantime, if you have public comment you'd like to make, you can feel free to find that raise hand button now. And then we'll give it a couple minutes to make sure that Sean can hear what is said as well.
Can I make a public comment?
Fine
Yeah.
with me.
Just so everybody knows, today at noon, I'm lifting the fire ban. I'm sending out a press release right now. Gilpin County, I believe Boulder and the Arapahoe Forest all come out today So we're following suit. That way we're all on the same page. That's it.
Yeah, I saw that someone had torn down the fire ban sign and the shooting ban sign at North Empire last Friday. So I stuck it back up, did the usual maintenance, knowing that it was only for 2 or 3 days, but I'll run up there. Actually, you don't have to worry about that one, Rick. I'll run up and take it down later.
Okay, I know that I have a couple guys out there pulling signs, so if it's missing, we probably already got it.
Okay, good enough.
Morning, Sean.
Hello, everyone.
We've just had one public comment so far. I think you're aware from the sheriff that fireman is ending at noon today. And so I'll repeat that call for public comment from anybody else. If you are here to say something, please click participants, click raise hand.
So was the comment from the sheriff?
The comment was from the sheriff.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close public comment. The first thing on the agenda is the county commissioner updates. Who wants to start?
I'll start. I don't think I have anything this time, so I'm good.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of gotten away from just giving the litany of every meeting we attended so that people know we exist and did something. So in terms of large items coming through, there hasn't been a lot in terms of transportation. We're in pretty good shape for the September collaborative effort meeting coming up. We've had a couple of other meetings with people about greenhouse gases and so forth at the state level, and really, I'm trying to think. The other thing is we've learned that in the August, I believe, 19th meeting, there will be a S-word Mestahet Mountain may come up, but it will probably be a preliminary discussion just to see if they've got all their ducks in a row to be able to take it up in a more serious fashion a month or so later. And the governor will be signing, and that's the reason I can't make that. I think I announced this last time, so I'm being redundant from last week's report, but on the 17th, the governor's signing a proclamation that finally undoes a 156-year-old law that makes it, that says it's legal to kill hostile Native Americans. And so that's going off the books. And so anyway, that's happening on the west steps of the Capitol. And that's not really that's a Clear Creek County item. It's either a state or a worldwide item or something like that. So.
Okay. I just have a handful of things on my list. First, a shout out to Haley Washington, Idaho Springs local. Used to watch her running around Idaho Springs on a tricycle, and she just won gold in the Olympics, which is incredible. The reason I'm actually bringing it up is because Don Canner, who's been helping put up the Haley's from Idaho Springs banners and shirts and that kind of thing, reached out to me to ask. They're looking for, I think, a small amount of money to decorate Idaho Springs, get some banners that say the home of Haley Washington. That ask ended up, I suspect it was to more than me or more than the county government. But I wanted to bring that to you all because it seems like we don't have a process for small asks like this, but I would certainly be in favor of spending a couple $100 to celebrate Haley.
What about Rotary Lions? It seems like there'd be a litany of civic groups who would be probably more appropriate to do it than us.
I have the same thoughts.
Yeah, or myself.
Or
I'll throw some in, but
I would personally pitch in for it.
Yeah.
But I agree. Let me just say this though, George. I agree with you, and I wouldn't have had a problem if the county threw, a few bucks towards it too, because it's And it was a notable thing. So that wouldn't have bugged me either, but I also think we can accomplish the same goal individually. So
She's also a Rock House kid and high school teammate of Hannah Jensen.
We also had Deputy Bo Campbell go over and was an official boxing referee. He got to officiate the gold medal women's match. And he also got awarded one of the top 3 referees in the Olympics over there. So just so y'all know, that way you can know that part too.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, that's that one. I think I agree with you. Like it occurs to me that the Tourism Bureau would be a great organization to, lead this. So anyway, enough said on that. Second, I attended an Aqua meeting, Upper Clear Creek Watershed Association. If anybody knows the coach's name, I don't know the coach's name. Sorry about that, Diane Powell.
Volleyball coach was Karch Karai, the Olympic gold medalist himself, 2-time Olympic medalist.
And then there was a local coach that she met, Angie. Anyway, so yeah, I attended an Upper Clear Creek Watershed Association meeting. They have formed a subcommittee or a somewhat separate group to do wildfire mitigation. We saw that. I don't know if you've seen an MOU is being prepared to formalize what it looks like for the metro communities and us to work on mitigation of the watershed we share. In that meeting, there was a presentation and kind of a pitch from a group calling themselves the NOCO Places, the NOCO Fireshed Coalition, Northern Colorado Fireshed Coalition. This is an organization that was started by Larimer. Boulder came in via MOU sometime last year. And they would love to have Gilpin and Clear Creek and Jeffco participate. I think the idea is to gain some economies of scale and help the Arapahoe Roosevelt National Forest region be more competitive in grants. And my understanding, and it's kind of limited right now, is that the work is mostly being done by OEMs and fire folks, offices of, the Office of Emergency Management. And so I wanted to let you two know that I've had those conversations, and I based on feedback from you, I think I intend to, regardless, I intend to do an exploratory meeting. Suzanne Bocha, our OEM directors, is interested and rightfully hesitant about whether it's duplicative or new or helpful or not. Thoughts on that?
I think it's a great idea. I think it should, since we're talking virtually the exact same area as NOCO, I think trying to make sure that we're not being, that we don't do redundant work in that area, because it's of course coming up as, fire is part of the landscape of those discussions as well. And I'm not trying to be competitive at all for it, but just making sure that we're, getting maximum bang for the buck for all of our effort is the only thing I'm thinking. And also the experience that, for example, with the RMRI initiative, that was a much broader, longer east to west amalgamation of areas, and there's so much fire risk everywhere that for us to be competitive within that larger scale is difficult. We had a great grant request 2 years ago, a tremendous grant request and presentation, and the competition was so high that I think creating a little smaller regional alliance like this to try to be more competitive is a great idea. So anyway, and the only reason I bring up NOCO at all is just because it's almost the exact same members, but different people within those same organizations at the federal, state, and county levels. So just so we're all on the same page, not having two ships passing in the dark. But otherwise, great, and I'm glad you're doing it.
I'll be brief. I like it. Thanks.
Thanks. And so I'll keep you updated. It'll get to a certain point of interesting that obviously it would come before this board or not. Last, I just want to clarify Tuesday, the 17th. I know where it stood was that Sean was unavailable, Randy was unavailable, so we weren't going to meet. Sean, I think I saw that you are available.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do we need to meet if the agenda's already been cleared? Brian, Peter, your thoughts on that?
it also means I'm not going to be available that last Tuesday, or is the first one of September, whatever that is,
Um,
the
Well,
31st.
One of the items I was going to bring up during my update was a discussion of going back to bi-monthly meetings, so twice a month. So when we would, if the board agrees to that, when we would want to start that cycle again. So
Okay, so for the purposes of this question, maybe we don't have cause to meet next week.
So
So
just a friendly reminder that we did identify August 31st as a retreat day. So in lieu of a regular meeting, we're going to come together in a retreat fashion on the 31st. So that's 3 weeks from today.
And I think we just heard Sean say that he's now rescheduled for that date instead.
That date. So we need to reschedule that date. Okay, that's fine. We'll reschedule that. So at this point, then it's just when we want to start the cycle of going back to every other week.
So I'm going to suggest since we have cleared the calendar for the 17th, that we do not have a meeting next week, but that we
Before.
respectfully would at least have a meeting on the 24th, I believe it is. And then it's up to you whether we need it on the 31st. The only reason I want to make sure that we have a decent amount of time is the resolution to extend the emergency declaration is expiring, I believe, around September 5th or so, or I don't have it in front of me, but I know we put a placeholder on the calendar to make sure that it was at least addressed. I will want to make sure that we at least have the discussion. I honestly don't expect the declaration to be extended, but it may be. So as long as we have a quorum, I just want enough time so that we can have that discussion so we can make an action item.
Is everybody here on the 24th?
Sean won't be.
I'm
And
gone.
Sean, it sounds like you're not here on the 31st either.
The one thing I would say, I mean, Brian and Peter, your time does not predate COVID, but back when we met twice a month, sometimes we met 3 times a month, sometimes we met 4 times a month, sometimes we met 6 times a month at all. But I think it was kind of moving the expectation from staff's perspective that they wouldn't have to go scramble every single week, that the default would be, a meeting that started at 9 or 8 and ended in the middle of the afternoon, and we were able to get the county's business done.
There were 2 or 3 items that I recall, and I'll try to be brief. When we do that, there were 2 or 3 things that came up. There are certain elements of staff, certain people on staff that have to put a lot of time in the day before the meeting or in preceding days to the meeting, different tasks that need to be done. Then there's the day of the meeting. And then there's the day after the meeting where we execute ideas, many of them good, that we came up during the meeting. But it did start limiting some members of staff to only a couple of days where they could do stuff besides prepare for, be in, or respond to meetings, and so when we meet weekly, that's a constant in their life. And so I think our staff could be a little more productive if we tried to have a little longer meetings. Another thing that I recall we talked about back then, 2 to 3 years ago, was that we got reports when we kept ending our meetings by noon or 11 o'clock when we had too many meetings, that people would tune into a meeting and find out the meeting was, or drive to Georgetown. It was more the problem because it predated our virtual meetings, and it really came up that they would drive to Georgetown and find out the meeting was over, and they got there at noon because they thought there was going to be some stuff going on. And there is, of course, people can look at the agendas and so forth, but there are multiple. My point is there are multiple reasons why we can do that. But I also agree that we've become so used to handling so much more, I think, more work in the age of virtual meetings, that I will expect that we will we'll be aiming for 2 meetings a month, but we'll be having more meetings than that occasionally. But we should probably try to get the meat of our work done in those 2 meetings that we designate, so that when we do have a special meeting, it's in to get the thing done that somebody came up with and back out of the meeting so people can get back to work, rather than call that meeting for that special purpose. And as long as we're at it, tack 6 more things on, because then we'll just be back to where we are right now, which is meeting every week. And,
The only thing I would add to that is I agree with that. And we did at one point commit, we were going to spend 25 of our time and energy on 25% on strategy, and we haven't done that. And so if we have blank Tuesdays, that facilitates the ability for us to do that. And I would think we would only be impacting a fairly narrow spectrum of the staff when we did that, like whatever subject we were tackling that particular meeting.
And that's the first I've heard of that goal of the board, spending 25% of your time on strategy. Certainly helpful for me to know that, and obviously something that will probably come out of this retreat day that we're trying to get set up.
It predates your time, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure, by a few months.
So does it make sense then to meet next on the 20, to start that every other week process? And so we meet next on the 24th, which would make the next meeting on September 7th?
I haven't heard George's thoughts on this yet. So
And if I could just put a reminder out there, the September 7th, I believe, is the Tuesday right after Memorial Day. So I just want you to be aware, because sometimes coming back right after a long weekend doesn't necessarily work. We did that after, I think, July 4th and Memorial Day. But it seemed to be a scramble because we weren't sure whether we were having a meeting or not.
And then something else, we might want to just go check that resolution. We've, of course, passed a resolution publishing our meeting dates. I don't know if we would have to do another one, but in general, I'm not opposed to going to every other week. It seems like our weekly meetings are getting shorter. I also think it's smart to, give our county manager some time to get ahead of agenda construction and what's going on. And I'll keep my eye out, because when we were doing bi-weekly meetings, there are a couple things that I think were true. I felt like I didn't have enough time to talk about the stuff that I want to talk about and see the county do and issue the direction that I think this board needs to issue. And if we can figure out how to not have that happen again, then I'll be all for staying with bi-weekly. I also think it's true that our meetings were too long. I think after about 2 p.m., the kind of value you get out of this board diminishes greatly. And that's not on any one person. That's on all 3 of us and our attorney and manager, who I'll just, say it. It's just hard and taxing to be in front of the newspaper, in front of the public for hours on end. And I see it in myself, and I see it in you all. And so if meetings start to get too long, then I'm going to ask that we start adding meetings to the schedule instead of trying to pretend that hour 9 and 10 we're actually getting anything done.
yeah, hour 9 and 10, I agree with. However, hour 9 and 10 would normally be like 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, as opposed to, or 7 o'clock in the evening, as opposed to 2 o'clock in the evening. Personally, I have no problem with going to 2, 3, 4 o'clock when we need to get things done. Hard work is hard. I acknowledge that. And the value of our work, it takes a stronger effort to maintain that value. But I think that going to the 2 meetings a week also has value, because it's a strain on our staff because of the hard work they have to do to add so much to working on those things. So I think if we can be really efficient about those extra things that we all care about, that I want to do too, for example, and Sean wants to do, we all have things we care about, and we need to be really efficient about making sure we plug them in a way that and then I'll work harder, because I know you guys are really brief and efficient with your words, and I'm not. So I'll try to turn over a new leaf and be articulate instead of loquacious. Thank you.
I had one thing. I mean, my personal breaking point is probably more about 4 o'clock, and I totally agree that after 4, I become a bitter, angry man, and
I agree with that.
I don't want to do that. I think in addition to the additive concept, I think this, I I think we could be more efficient with our agendas. I think we put time on the agenda. I think we can, many times we put more than we need and we end up using it up anyway. That's one thing to keep in mind, I believe. I'm even looking at today's agenda, and I think we could have probably been a little more efficient.
Yeah. Well, to that end, we should probably move on. Maybe I'll just clarify. You're right, my math didn't add up, Randy. I think after about 6 hours, we start to lose our ability to be effective. And it's not because I'm not willing to try to do hard work. It's that I don't think I'm effective for our constituents, our staff, or anybody else. And I don't think any of us are. So.
Well, I know I get tired later on, but I think I can handle it. I think I can handle working till 3 or 4 o'clock. So that's all I'm saying, and still do pretty good work. It's just harder to do. So
Yeah, and I don't think you're saying,
in my case,
Randy,
I'm only speaking for myself.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Okay, good enough. What's the next topic, Brian?
Well, where does that leave us? So we're meeting on the 24th next?
I'm fine with meeting the day after, and you said Memorial Day. I think you meant Labor Day. Randy pointed that out in the chat.
Right.
So next meeting is the 24th and then the 7th?
24th and the 7th, then the 21st, I guess. We're hitting that rhythm unless something comes up and we have to meet on the 14th.
Sure.
I think so.
All right. Couple quick fire updates for you. We did get our certificate of occupancy for the clinic yesterday, so that's a nice milestone to hit. And then also with respect to Saxon Mountain, there was a group of folks out there last weekend, which sounds like they did quite a bit of work out there, removing additional boulders, breaking up some more big rocks. Sounds like they moved about 45 boulders, broke up some other ones. So sounds like that road is in pretty good shape at this point. It's as James was telling us in his update, it's still certainly a technical Jeep trail, but definitely in better shape than it was previously. So we have a joint meeting with the school district on Thursday. And the school district reached out to Beth wanting to know if we intended to be there in person, if we want to do this via Zoom. They did provide a Zoom link. And then also if you had any specific topics of discussion for the board.
I'd like to go there in person. I assume it's some, appropriately distanced environment. They probably wouldn't have invited us if not, that would be the case.
I can do in person. I might prefer a virtual option, given that we sit on the Board of Health and we have a pretty challenging COVID situation, and the CDC just released data that said that contagiousness among vaccinated people is almost equal to the contagiousness among unvaccinated people. I'm just really interested in modeling good behavior. Thoughts on that?
I think that's a really legitimate consideration.
I don't disagree with that, but I know people who have had breakout or breakthrough cases or whatever they're called, and they were all quite mild. So I'm not personally afraid of getting the Delta variant.
It's more the epidemiology.
I'm not suggesting anyone is, but I'm not.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm afraid of getting it. I don't want to be part of the reason that it continues to spread.
Right. I think I share that with George, and I think I share with George also that I'm not, having just been through that at a family reunion where about 4 people got sick and 1 person got pretty sick, but is coming out okay. And 1 tested positive for COVID. And so we all had to isolate, for about a week and get tested and figure out who had and who hadn't picked it up. It was, I recognize that we're all likely to get through because virtually the 1 person who did get sicker had not been vaccinated And I think that's the example George is speaking to, that when we decide that we needn't, it's not a matter of living in fear, it's just trying to still engineer a solution and ride this thing to the end. But anyway, that's just my take.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess my take now is kind of, if you haven't been vaccinated, that's because you don't want to, and you've decided to accept whatever the appropriate risk is associated with not being vaccinated. And I personally don't feel responsible for that.
How about topics of conversation?
But I'm 100% fine with the virtual. If that's what people would rather do, I'm totally cool with that too.
Yeah, I think that's my preference. As far as topics of conversation, I know that we're both talking about ballot initiatives, and I think that we should be prepared to explain ours and listen to them about theirs. Obviously hearing, and I think we know generally speaking, but hearing anything that they have about COVID and how they're going to have a successful and safe school year is of interest. I know they talk to Tim all the time, and it's not like we have anything new for him.
Anybody else? Okay, I will, so I'm hearing it's going to be a Zoom meeting. And we got at least 2 topics here in terms of ballot initiatives and COVID in the school year. All right, and that meeting is set for 10:30 on Thursday.
I think I'm curious about, and whether they want to speak to it or prepare to talk about it is up to them, is enrollment. And I mean, since I've lived in the county, I think the enrollment's dropped by 50%. And that's a huge driver, or the driver behind the financial pressure. So I'd just be kind of curious to hear if they're working on some strategic initiatives to turn that trend around, or if it is turning around.
Yeah, I mean, especially like in the short-term context, what we have last year, we saw a survey indicating that a bunch of students were going to stay home or not enroll. And then I think when the rubber hit the road, their enrollment was a little higher than they were concerned. But I would just love an update on that.
Okay. Anything else? All right. One more item for the update, and that's related to our CARES dollars. The board indicated a desire to comment on anything over the $5,000 threshold with respect to our CARES dollars. So we wanted to bring you another option. One thing that we are discovering is we had some things in our, I guess, on our CARES dollars list that are actually FEMA, they're actually eligible to be reduced or to be reimbursed through FEMA. So when we do that, it actually adds to the amount of money we have left in our CARES dollars. So Alyssa is here and Rebecca is here to provide an option for the board to consider with respect to use of our CARES dollars.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Thank you for having me. Let me just share my screen. I have one quick slide for you just because it's numbers. So as you can see on here, our total allocation was about 1.6 million. To date, we've spent about 1.2, which leaves $428,566 remaining. As Brian mentioned, this number may change a little bit based on some of the research that we're doing, whether it needs to be FEMA reimbursable or CARES reimbursable. There are a couple line items either going into FEMA or coming into CARES, but it shouldn't change drastically. The things on the right that are highlighted in green are items that have already been approved by the board and our budget committee and that are moving forward. So this COVID financial management is hiring of CLA to help us do the audit of our CARES and FEMA dollars and make sure that we have the proper documentation. And then you all are familiar with this Omni Behavioral Health Facilitation. This is part 2 of the assessment that they've done for us. The things in white are, I apologize, I should have highlighted the green for vaccine marketing. We are moving forward with that based on your conversation 2 weeks ago. So the things in white, so the behavioral health class, Rebecca's going to give us an overview of that. Reimbursements for towns. And so what this is the towns were all given an allocation from our main pot, with the exception of Idaho Springs. They got their allocation directly. This money was to be able to be used for their own COVID expenses. All the towns, so Georgetown and Silver Plume, gave that money back to the main pot to be used for business support. Now that we have more dollars remaining than we thought that we did, it is our hope to be able to go back to the towns and offer those dollars to them should they want to seek reimbursement for their COVID expenses. So that's what that is. And then there's an ongoing conversation about hazard pay. Peter's currently doing a legal review on that to identify what hazard pay is and what it can be used for. So not looking to have that conversation right now. I just wanted to let you all know that that's where we are with our dollars. I do want to pass it to Rebecca to give us a quick overview about the behavioral health classes in partnership with the rec and library districts.
Thanks, Alyssa. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen really quickly so we can go over the curriculum for this program that the Rec Center gave us. So just to talk about our intentions behind this program a little bit, this is designed to address some of the behavioral and mental health challenges that have been faced and are being faced by residents of Clear Creek County as a result of the pandemic. So this is a collection of offerings and courses designed for that purpose. So I'm going to go over this really quickly. Feel free to ask any questions or ask me to slow down. This is our primary offering, or their primary offering for teens between the ages of 12 and 17. They decided that rather than offering group classes that might not be as highly utilized by teens, they would offer free rec center admission for teenagers. And this will be through the end of December, as that is when CARES dollars expires. So total budget for that is $38,000. And then kind of as an addition to that, these are teen takeover nights. So this will be one night per month. These events will be planned by teen volunteers overseen by Mountain Youth Network. Different activities, food will be there, and there will also be Resilience 1220 counselors present for teens to talk to if they want. So hopefully that is a way to provide resources that teens can access at their own volition. So that budget was $12,521. This Finding Networks, that is a private social media and course building platform. This is designed to enhance the accessibility of these classes and offerings. Residents of Clear Creek County will all be able to access mental wellness programs provided by Colorado Spirit, free of charge, and then a bunch of other things, 5-minute meditations, gym equipment tutorials, everything in this list here. This is also how the Rec Center will track admission for teens, taking advantage of that teen takeover program. They'll have a QR code attached to this program and they'll scan it when they come in, and that's how they will track attendance. And so budget for that is $2,705. Moving on, this is kind of an adult offering, community-led series, Self-Care Demystified. So this is a collection of courses on a variety of things led by community members. So that's a pretty neat way that we can get even more engagement from the community. Hopefully these are chances for community members to discover new ways to unwind and provide them with other skills that they can use in their everyday lives to express themselves and handle the anxiety that comes with everything COVID. So that'll be 1 to 2 times a month. And budget for that is $1,440. Monthly senior foot clinic. So this is a senior offering. Throughout the pandemic, senior citizens went without foot care, which is a very critical service, both in terms of overall health and well-being. This will also be a chance for them to access information on other senior home health services that are available to them. And they will also be providing information on Clear Creek County Library District services and resources as well. So that'll be one time a month for 4 months. Budget for that is $1,122.50. So this is another 17 and up kind of adult offering, Happy for No Reason. So this is an 8-week series that teaches the 21 habits for happiness. So these hope to be a toolkit for maintaining happiness through what we all know have been turbulent times. So that'll also be one time a week for 8 weeks. Cost for that is $1,860. Exploring mindfulness, this is similar, a 17 and up offering. A 17 and up offering, these will be tools including breath work, awareness training, authentic movement, journaling, nervous system education, things like that, in order to help adults handle their anxiety and stress and find ways to cope with that in their everyday lives as well. So this will also be once a week, and the budget for that is $850. This is a youth offering, ages 9 to 14, dance and drama for kids. So this is a way for youth to get together in a group setting, which they haven't been able to do in a very long time, and express themselves creatively. Also hopes to offer kind of an escape from reality for what has been a very scary reality for many of them for a long time now. So that'll be one time a week, and budget for that is $780. A self-defense class with Resilience 1220 for 12 and up. They mention here that COVID is not the only issue dividing this country. Many people have been dealing with fear resulting from the pandemic and many other things. So hopefully this is a way to help people feel like they have a little bit more control over their lives. So that will be a workshop on September 18th, and that'll be $683. These financial literacy classes, these are actually offered by the Clear Creek Library District. Of course, there have been a lot of economic hardships and financial instability that came with the pandemic. So these will hopefully be a way to give residents access to resources on how to begin to rebuild their financial stability, learn about improving credit ratings, living debt-free, saving money, and all of those really valuable skills. This piece, adult participation incentive, this is kind of an addition to this program in order to incentivize participation. So the Clear Creek Rec District will offer free admission for the first 25 residents who attend at least one of the above classes or workshops for the end of the year through December 31st. Budget for that maximum would be $3,525. This is a total overview of the proposed budget, and that number comes to $68,436.50. So that was a really quick overview. I'm happy to answer any questions or go back over anything that I need to.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I read through this whole thing this morning and was I'm just very happy at the idea of what we're doing here. I haven't even gotten as far as to giving thought to the budget and all that stuff yet. It was only just programmatic itself, the potential benefits of trying to weave all these things together. So I want to thank Rebecca, yourself, Alyssa, and whoever else has worked on it. This looks like the work of a few people to me to be able to pull this together. It's a really impressive assembly of things that can help people. One of the things that I thought as I went through it is I note that it also mentioned, I think, around the first 25 people getting a rec center pass or something like that. Wasn't that down in there?
Yes.
And I think I think that's a really important and good thing. And I think what it speaks to is the therapeutic benefit, which you refer to, and I've actually brought up a couple times in the commission before, of exercise on mental health, stress relief, even certain chronic mental health problems that people are imbued with, that they live with, or they've earned through their life experiences. And the only reason I say that is because I didn't even know that I was executing that program after my father's suicide. I had no clue. So I'm going to let it out here so that people can understand the importance of it. I didn't even know what endorphins were when I started, and I'm not suggesting everyone can do this, but my own version of it was I got to where I started riding my bike to Echo Lake every day after work, and it was like ridiculous. It was 3,000 feet a day. But the peace I got from that was tremendous. I don't expect that people are going to be doing that, but to actually take the exercise component of this program and somehow weave it into an educational understanding people have of the value at whatever level they can do it. And I do it at a tiny 1% of a fraction of that left today, but it does a lot of good to relieve the stress of the kinds of trauma that people have coming out of something like a COVID pandemic. And I think addressing these financial traumas, giving people the skill and the confidence to self-defense, financial understanding, I'm sure Sean's going to relate to that, what that can bring people is tremendous. But weaving in, rather than just giving a rec center pass as a reward, but having people understand why that is so important and can do so much to help bring them out of that is really important. And I think it's almost, by virtue of many of the activities here, it's almost implied, but I think a conscious understanding of the community becoming educated in the value of that, not just to be healthy or something, but for the fact that it's known to chemically. There have been about every 10 years, there's a study that comes out in which we discover all over again that a certain level of physical activity and release of the hormones and things that happen because of that actually does more than almost any kind of therapy or either drug therapy or engagement therapy. And the question is how to get people doing it. So weaving that into this program. Sorry that took so long to say, but it's a concept that's I think really important.
Yeah, we completely agree. And this was not only were people at a heightened state of stress for the past year and a half, but they also weren't able to access these resources like a gym, like it was closed. And then for a lot of people, like the financial aspect that you mentioned, a lot of people weren't able to access it, maybe even still for that reason also. So I think removing that barrier is really important also.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Randy said and commend the team. I mean, looking at all the different opportunities you guys have uncovered and the good stewardship that you're exhibiting with the amount of money that you're spending, I think that that's fantastic. The negative side of that is we have a lot of money to put to work, and we still have huge amount left. And there are a couple of things that I didn't really see addressed. One of the things is obesity, right? I mean, we know that it was already a problem in our community, and we know for sure that it's worse. And I saw some types of things that seems like it's maybe a little bit focused on the younger generation with mental health, which I totally agree with. And I think the hard part is there's a lot of isolation, loneliness, and to Randy's point, I don't know how you reach the people who need to be reached in a way that they want to be reached. So it's probably a pretty tough problem to figure out. The other one is substance abuse. Again, we know for sure substance abuse, alcohol, legal drugs, illegal drugs, prescription medications have all gotten a lot worse during the pandemic. And then the last thing I'll say is I think we need to identify a couple of big chunks to deploy the money. And I don't know if there's a way to support some of our affordable or workforce housing efforts or things along those lines. But if we keep doing the great work that you're doing, $1,000 at a time and $5,000 at a time and $800 at a time, we're not going to get it's going to take forever to get the job done.
Thanks for that feedback. Oh, I'm sorry, George.
Well, I was just going to ask if you're suggesting that we seek to expand this program.
I'm just looking at the very first slide with the amount of dollars we have left to deploy and noting that while we're doing fantastic, we have huge amount of money left to effectively deploy. And I think we need to identify bigger chunks to go after somehow that meet the criteria that are going to help our citizens.
Maybe one of the first questions I would have to follow up on that is of Alyssa and Rebecca, are there any elements of this? You know, I mean, I mentioned one, but I don't think it would eat up a lot of money to be able to do that public education piece around the actual physical exercise part. It'd be another, $5 or something. But in terms of getting that word out, a little more than that. But are there elements of this in which you maybe, which you think might cost more than that, but you were afraid to ask for too much?
So that's a great question. We actually have Kelsey, she's in the attendee list, and I just want to give a huge shout out to both Kelsey and Libby, the rec district and the library district. They're the ones that put this together. Kelsey she actually brought to us a bigger list of offerings. I see that she just got moved over to our panelist. Not to put her there's Libby too, not to put them on the spot. But Kelsey, is there anything in the list that you initially had brought to us that might address some of the concerns that Sean and Randy mentioned?
Yes, there were many. We had a long list of ideas. So we would love to bring more to the table. There was some substance abuse offerings and really in collaboration with Resilience 1220 and group settings, sharing circle kind of settings. The cool thing about Mighty Networks, this app that we're proposing, is that it's free for the entire community, and it's a course building site, so we can record presentations. So speaking to the kind of community education that you're talking about, Randy, this is a way that people have instant access through an application on their phone to have all of this, right? And that's effective advertising as well. It's really targeted. So we're getting to people in a way that we wouldn't on these larger social media platforms. And there's some funds that could use, but we do have quite a few other programs that we would love to put forward. It's a question of, funding. So we can certainly bring those to you as well.
I believe, Kelsey, wasn't there also a nutrition class in your initial set of offerings too? So that might kind of contribute to that obesity piece, Sean, if that's something that you all would be interested in doing.
Maybe a good way to advance the conversation is for us to express that we're happy with spending more than the 68,000 that was proposed. And Libby, you had something to say, and it's probably worthwhile hearing.
Just my 2 cents, the obesity thing. I think the best way to do that is maybe increase the number of 25 attendees and just increase everybody that attends something gets a gym membership. I think that peer support of community workout would help out. The library initially talked about doing book walks and talks, which would also help on that obesity initiative and health initiative. I think that's mental health and physical health, which is something we can look at. Obviously, time and staffing is a little bit of an issue. As far as substance abuse, I think us and the rec center would be willing to do space, but that seems like a very private issue and maybe not something that we would offer for as a library district, but providing the support for whoever can facilitate that as far as spacing would be great. But I also say I support Sean's idea of large chunks of cash to infrastructure and facilities already developed that help people day-to-day connect. But just again, thank you to Alyssa and Rebecca. Awesome opportunity for us in the library, but that's my 2 cents as far as the initiatives you were talking about, Sean.
Really quick on the incentive, the 25 incentive. The thought behind that is that we would start with 25 and then not limit it there. And so if we get more than 25, we're more than happy to fund it. We just didn't want to over budget because we have absolutely no idea how many people that don't currently have rec passes are going to take advantage of this. I mean, I'd love to fund 100 people. It really kind of is just dependent on how many of our residents take advantage of it.
So to make sure I understand you right, if the board was okay with spending some more money on additional passes or additional classes, Alyssa, you think that that would be a good idea?
Absolutely. Yeah. The one thing to consider is that this money can only be used through the end of the year. And so if somebody takes advantage, I mean, even a month free rec pass, I think is a great benefit. But we just have to keep that in mind.
The only slightly cautionary thing I'd throw out there is one of the reasons many people have obesity challenges is that they don't go to the gym, and that may not be what they're looking for. I would think attacking or going after calories and healthy diet is probably at least as important as trying to get them to do something that they so far don't want to do.
I agree with that. It's a lot of education across the board in it. Yeah.
Just kind of removing obstacles to be able to have access to better calories, right? I mean, unfortunately, the cheapest foods in our society are the crappiest empty calories that that are imaginable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just took a look at the clock and remembered that we're on a timeline here. So what's the outcome from this? Are we approving the 68,000? Are we approving an up to number? Does somebody want to throw a number out there?
That's a really quick clarifying question, and maybe Rebecca, if you could go back to the first slide. Am I right that we still have a lot of money to spend by the end of the year?
One moment, let me pull that up.
Sorry,
For you.
Alyssa.
There you go. So we'd have about, I'm not good at math, but that 428 minus 172, assuming we fund all of these at this amount, is what the balance would be.
Yeah, so that's still $250,000. Yeah, I mean, my personal take is if we feel confident that this money, I mean, it looks to me, I mean, it seems like we're doing some appropriate experimentation to see what works and what doesn't work. And I would hope that one thing we could do is have another meeting soon to give us some feedback, the board some feedback to say, hey, we threw a bunch of stuff out there. We tried 12 different things, and here are the 4 that worked really well. And maybe that would give us some direction to double down on those. But I personally don't have any issue with approving the money that has been asked for. I don't know that I have enough information to right here say, hey, I think we should throw another chunk out, but I think we should get to that very quickly since we only have till the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I think we have an obligation of efficient financial stewardship oversight without micromanaging. Your obvious excellent selections, for example, in this presentation today. So to just randomly throw a number out there that we don't even know what it's going for might be, might not be responsible. But I would certainly like to. I would say I would say yes to this in a heartbeat right now, based on what I see. A couple of numbers in there look like they might be a little shy. And so to re-examine those numbers and don't be at all shy about coming back to us, at the very next meeting, even, and say, we've rethought this and we want to encourage you to be as creative as possible and as responsible as possible, and making sure that you put enough money in there to get these things done as well as they can be done. And I think that's where I go with it, but I'm interested in what George thinks too.
Real quick, does the board have to decide, or is this something that we could empower staff to kind of charge forward with?
Well, that's actually what I was going to ask. With respect to approving what's on the screen, and then also approving whatever it takes to add the additional classes that they've already discussed.
I think I made a request sometime back that on a lot of these kinds of funds that the board is kept in the loop and is able to so I think getting to us in real time and just saying, hey, but based on the quality of what I've seen today, it's not going to be a hard sell on any of this. So.
Yeah, and I totally agree with being kept in the loop. I don't want to be an obstacle and cause delays because of something procedural. And I mean, in the large scheme of things, we're not talking about a huge amount of money. So I personally would be comfortable having this move forward with someone like Brian's approval.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, so then I'm trying to figure out where we're at. I had suggested that maybe we approve an up to that's above 68,000. And then there's been some discussion. Can you clarify for me? Are we talking, is the direction to spend the money, the dollars and pennies in this proposal, or to spend more than that?
What I suggested is that we approve the 68 right now and then empower staff to evaluate additional requests once they're a little more quantified and defined.
And I would add
We don't have to wait 2 weeks. Sorry.
And I would add to that with the direction in the comments with respect to the substance abuse, addressing obesity, and then we'll target that with the additional funds.
And Randy, that matches your expectation as well.
I
So
think pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. I don't know that full, $250,000 difference would go to that particular line item as an example. I think it might, any one of these line items might expand, and there may be another whole new line item that comes in that we haven't talked about today, that when a light bulb goes off and Alyssa's or Rebecca's head or someone, and don't be shy. And I do like the idea of Brian being empowered to understand our thinking, and then Brian has the ability to kind of keep us in the loop individually, so that if any one of us has a reaction to it, we have that ability to say something, but just keep us in the loop and keep moving forward. I think we should, because our community needs it, find ways to spend this money to help this community continue to recover.
yeah. Okay, so then my understanding is that we just approved the expenditure of $68,436.50, and any additional expenditures will come back to this board.
In my personal view, I don't think I would be okay. I mean, to Randy's point, I don't think it's possible based on this conversation that we're going to come up with $250,000 of worthy projects. I would guess it's probably going to be at most another 68,000 or probably less. And like I said, I'm personally okay with Brian tracking that down with the help of his staff.
Yeah, George, I heard it a little differently. I mean, I think I'm hearing we're fine with the 68,000 and also adding to that with respect to some of the class ideas that have come up through this discussion. I do think as a budget committee, we probably need to have another brainstorming session on some of the comments we're hearing here with respect to some of the bigger chunk ideas that would spend the remaining dollars. And I think those kinds of ideas then come back to the full board. If they're bigger chunk ideas, but I'm hearing you're giving us the ability to move forward with these classes and adding to the classes as well.
Yeah, I think part of it, and I understand why this is a confusing conversation, and we've all helped contribute to that. I know I have. And I think that I don't think I was saying that any expenditure over this comes back to the board. I think it's a matter of, Brian has shown a lot of communication skills and willingness to be really forthcoming and keep the board in the loop and know what's going on individually. And I think as long as we're out there as a kind of like a screening mechanism to be able to say, hey, that's a great idea, or be able to note something and contribute a thought to it, just in as real time as is possible for you to do, but otherwise move forward and find good ways to spend the money on these things or similar things. I mean, I think I'm not asking you to schedule a meeting to come back before you can spend another $5. And I know I had asked for a $5,000 limit to let us know about new ideas that we'd never heard of before. I'd kind of like to withdraw that, and just say, keep us in the loop so we can act as a net to catch something that, we may think of that somebody else didn't, but otherwise move forward with vigor and, keep taking care of the community. Does that a little closer to what you're thinking, Sean?
Yeah, I guess I have a question. I mean, we're trying our darndest to spend this, and I very much appreciate that we're being good stewards of the money. And I think it's possible we're not going to spend it all. And at that point, the federal government gets it back, or what actually happens.
So,
Oh, sorry, George, go on.
There's a lot of expenditures we've already made that are technically CARES reimbursable. Hazard pay is also a dollar amount that could grow a lot. So I don't think we're in a situation where money will end up going back. It's more, we want to think hard and challenge ourselves like you both have to use this money in the service of our constituents first.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, and obviously the hazard pay the conversation we need to have at some future date.
Yeah. Alyssa, do you need to add anything there? I didn't realize we both kind of jumped into the same time.
Sorry about that. I was just gonna say, Suzanne is currently working on reviewing all timesheets from all work that was involved in vaccine clinics and the EOC for any positions not like myself and Rebecca who are 100% dedicated to COVID. The thoughts behind that is that all of those hours that were dedicated to COVID beyond their normal job are reimbursable through CARES. It was our hope to not have to get reimbursed for that, and that we would be able to use those dollars for external purposes, such as program like this. However, we will be prepared with a number should we need to use those dollars at the very end.
Okay, well, good news sometimes comes with good challenges too. Like, we found more than $300,000 in CARES money that we think we can justify spending, and the associated challenges. So I'm gonna move us along. Thank you, Kelsey and Libby and Alyssa and Rebecca, and everybody else. The next thing on our agenda, we need to do some agenda triage here. Matt Taylor, you were here for an internal services division biannual update at 9:30. Matt, I don't know how I let this agenda get so off track.
My fault.
Do we prefer that we do internal services division now, or should we jump into operations division? And if operations division is here, maybe you guys can just let us know which one is least inconvenienced by this change.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we punch out the consent agenda and then split the hour between two topics that are left before the COVID update?
Yeah, I think consent, I agree with that. Let's do consent agenda, but I think oh yeah, and there's COVID update if we have to pick up. Yeah, I think we have to punch out consent agenda real fast right now and then move. And I would suggest we hand it to Matt and do it in the order that we had.
Yeah.
And just stay with it. And
Okay, excellent. So
I have nothing else to say.
we're going to do the consent agenda. Item number 1, consideration of approval of the warrant register. Item number 2, consideration of approval of modification of grant or agreement between Clear Creek County and USDA, U.S. Forest Service recreation funding. Number 3, consideration of approval of agreement between County of Clear Creek, Colorado and Jefferson Center for Mental Health for alcoholism and illicit drug use disorder treatment services.
Would it be possible, since that's Peter's item, if you could just give us like 60 seconds about item number 3?
Absolutely. So this is an agreement that we renew every year. It deals with the alcohol and illicit drug use treatment for people in the jail. It's focused on the sheriff's office. We have updated the agreement because for many years it just wasn't renewed, but it should have been renewed each time. So we try and do it once a year. So this is just the latest iteration. Not much has changed in the agreement. We cleaned it up a few years ago.
Okay, if everyone else is ready, I'm ready to make a motion. I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I see the visual second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's a consent agenda. Mr. Taylor, Internal Services Division. What do you have for us?
Hey, good morning. Thank you. I think we'll try and get you guys caught back up on time. I think we might just forego doing the individual department updates and really just allow Lisa to present some information on the capital project that's going on up at Green Lake. So with that, Lisa, I'll hand it over to you. And Lisa, it looks like you're still muted.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, and can you see the screen?
Oh, it went away.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, this is the Green Lake Headgate Reconstruction Project that we're starting this month. It's a $39,000 project on the county's half. Of course, 67% is paid by the city of Blackhawk. So I just will go through this quickly to try to get you back caught up, but I wanted to show you some, there's a location map. So everybody I think is familiar, but this shows you the vicinity to Georgetown and Green Lake. This is the access route of how to get there. That's very difficult. Four-wheel drive access, that's the shown in the green, and the red is the Leavenworth pipeline, and then the head gate is at the left of your screen. So this is a plan view of what we're going to do. We're going to take out the existing head gate. The Forest Service, this is on Forest Service land, and they required us to do that. We're going to put these boulders in the creek and put a new structure in that will feed the pipeline, and the existing fence over here stays. This is just some photographs, the existing head gate that will be removed. This is the new head gate location looking west from the existing head gate, which I'm standing on. You see the grate on the bottom. This is the view upstream from the footbridge. So you could see the existing head gate and looking upstream of where the new facility will be constructed. This is the footbridge in case any of you haven't been there, or you can actually cross the creek. This is the beginning of the pipeline where it heads out over 3,000 feet to get to Green Lake. And the triangular piece is how we currently remove the spool to stop the water from flowing so it drains in the winter. This is the road crossing. There's actually a road system on the other side of the creek that this accesses. It's upstream of the both head gates. This is the staging area on the open space land that the contractor will mobilize and put equipment to do the project, which starts next week, the 16th. And here's just kind of the vicinity. These willows obviously will be removed for the project. This, and to finalize, this is the Bidler Water Tunnel, which is the headwater where our water comes from to Leavenworth Creek. So I'll stop the share and wrap it up to save time.
Lisa, would you, I know it was in your memo, but you might just mention the cost of this project.
Our 37% is $39,000. And yeah, it's going to be a big improvement. It's taken over 3 years to get to this point. We're working with the Forest Service, so it's been a long process, and I'm very pleased that we're here. We have reconstructed the pipeline. This is the last we will be of it, and we'll go back to Green Lake and put a new pump vault in. Then the infrastructure for Green Lake that we planned when we purchased it will be complete. So thank you for your time.
And just real quick, this is basically a maintenance item to keep this thing operating as it should be. And it just due to the passage of time, it needed some upgrades.
Exactly, yes. We need that 10 cubic feet a second to come into that pipeline when we want it. It also is going to have a valve where we can actually close it remotely instead of having to drive up there.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
And there's no action by the board required. Is that correct?
No, it's been planned for 4 years, so.
No additional action, excuse me. I'd been
Correct.
hearing it. I knew about anyway, thanks.
Well, internal services, you took us very seriously when we talked about not having a lot of time. Is there anything else in your update that you'd like to share?
I'll open it up to any of the department heads. I'll just make a quick update. I'm really pleased to announce that we were able to hire Stephanie Klein to replace Marion Thomas, who retired earlier about a month ago or so. And so we've got that position filled. So we're really excited to have her. Other than that, I'll just open it up real quick to if Alexis or Chris have any updates that you want to provide really quickly to the board.
I can give a couple of quick updates. Unless you guys want to take a break.
Go ahead.
All right, first of all, we had the CSU RAM tour yesterday. About 35 CSU staff, including President Joyce McConnell and the Vice President of the Office of Engagement and Extension were there. And so I'd like to thank Randy, George, Brian. We had Lindsay Valdez and Sally Guanella Buckland there to just chat briefly with the group. They took the one-way train ride from the Georgetown Depot to the Silver Plume Depot, and then we met them there and just kind of explained our history, our current economic situation. And I think we had a great conversation that sparked a lot of collaborative ideas between campus and extension and Clear Creek County. So stay tuned for how some of those ideas might move forward. With respect to extension programming in Clear Creek County, wrapping up our summer programming. I hope you guys have had time to visit our native plant demonstration garden there in Georgetown. It really just took off this summer. And I'd like to thank our master gardeners for helping do all the maintenance over the summer. We've continued with Extension Thursday presentations. This month's will be focusing on your vegetable garden harvest and food preservation. We've also done quite a few wildflower identification hikes. And one that is upcoming is with Rocky Mountain Village. We're invited every other year when they have the post-polio campers there, and we do a wildflower ID hike on their property. And then for fall programming, we'll be focusing on putting your garden to bed presentations and our Heritage Hops beer and food experience presentation. So that's what's happening with mountain horticulture. And then with the 4-H youth development programming, we finished up our Growing with 4-H garden class activities with Kids Corner this summer. Unfortunately, our end of summer harvest party was canceled due to a potential COVID situation. So, but the classes overall went really well. We also did a virtual tour of the CSU vet facility with the library's summer reading program. And that was a fun event with the youth of Clear Creek. We are getting stuff together for back to school nights, which are this week. We'll focus on head, heart, hands, and primarily health activities to try to teach kids about germs and all of that good stuff as everyone gets back into the classroom. And then for fall, we'll be focusing on more after school programming with King Murphy, the Kids Corner, and Carlson. So I've been chatting with the staff at King Murphy, the new director of Kids Corner, and the new principal at Carlson. And really exciting, as part of the school district's HTI grant, we have been advertising for a 4-H AmeriCorps position to run the after school programming at King Murphy this fall or this school year. So if you know anyone who's interested in a great positive youth development career opportunity, let me know. And then real quickly, COVID PIO work has continued, providing updates and info on COVID testing, VAX clinics, COVID data through all our regular avenues, the website, social media, K-GOAT interviews, the newspaper, emails, monthly virtual town halls, and responses to numerous inquiries. And then also really exciting, I've been working with some CSU interns and Dr. Elizabeth Ryan, And we are finalizing 3 youth-focused COVID videos that we are excited to start sharing with the community. So stay tuned for all of that good stuff. Questions, comments?
Thought the Ram tour went well. It was good to be there.
Same. It was nice to have them visit, have the opportunity to introduce them a little more and orient them to the county, and they asked some good questions. So.
A question maybe for another time, which is in the past, we have benefited from the services of grad students at CU Boulder, Go Buffs. And I don't know that we've ever really had that type of a relationship with CSU, and or that it was possible, but if it is, I think we should pursue that as well.
Yeah, I think it's a definite possibility. I don't know off the top of my head what the CSU equivalent program is, but I can do a little bit of research. And I know for sure in the past, Clear Creek County has partnered a lot with Colorado School of Mines with their undergrad and grad students for a lot of kind of student consulting project work. So yeah, those are all great ways to utilize some of the best and brightest in those facilities that surround us.
Yeah, and the Buffs, I think it was like a capstone program in their graduate school. Yeah, but I know that it's definitely a benefit for them to be able to get their degrees done, but I think we get some pretty good ideas out of it too.
Yeah, I think that in a way we kind of obliquely alluded to that yesterday, because the people that were there were both new staff, faculty, a combination of them and administrators. And they wanted to know a lot of questions about the county, and we did kind of not challenge them, but really invite them to think about how they take some of the challenges that are here and find ways to, inspire their students to think of new ways to work on those challenges for us. So we didn't like formally invite any particular program, but we did speak to them as faculty members with students that could find ways to really invigorate their programs and try things. Be willing. Don't be afraid to try things in Clear Creek County that you think would be really unique and helpful to us. So, so to continue that push, I think through Chris's connection with them and communicate through would be great.
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity, and I guess what I would challenge leadership to do would be to come up with what projects would they want that program to focus on, instead of just opening it up to, do you have a program and how can you help us? I think if we had some specific things that we wanted them to focus on, it might be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Housing, recreation, I think we could all come up with 4 or 5 that we really like, that are pretty, front of mind.
Great. I will explore that and see what I can come up with.
Economic development.
Okay, well, thank you, Chris. And Matt, anything else from you?
Nothing else from me, and I don't see Alexis popping on to say anything, so I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, I will say I was interested in seeing all the work that the archive has done down in archives, and have a lot of curiosity there. Anyway, so thank you to
Sure.
the Internal Services Division.
And I'll just say, feel free to pop on down and see her anytime. I'm sure she'd love to give you a tour.
Yeah. So next up, Operations Division with Beth Luther and team.
Good morning, everybody. Are you guys okay, or do you want to take your bio break really quick, or just checking in before we get rolling?
Board?
I could go either way.
Okay. All right.
Well, let's just keep going, and we'll take that break around 10:50, 10:55.
Okay.
I was just thinking any one person can call that, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay. Now, as soon as I get my mouse to work so I can share my screen. I did send you guys a presentation through, and I'm not going to read all of it, but I think you guys know a lot about what I do for our Board of County Commissioners. Are you guys seeing the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so Operations Division, as you know, includes a few different departments. It includes the work that I do for you all, for county administration. I've also been handling the capital plan, and then we have 3 teams within our division, which include information technology, facilities, and transit. So I don't want to read all of this to you. I just kind of put it here for you so you know what I do for you all as an administration person. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'm gonna keep going. We also do the administration for the county administration office as well. This is where I help Brian with a lot of projects and do a lot of leadership teamwork, and then take on a lot of special projects like the electric vehicle stations, web editors group, and also employee appreciation and recognition, like our end of year holiday party and the retirement gifts that we propose or we provide to people who have served 5 years or more with us. So that's that one. I'm going to keep going. The next one is health clinic project management. I got brought into this as Keith and Cindy were leaving. These are just some of the pieces that I'm working on for the health clinic project. I just wanted to share this listing with you. If you have any questions or comments about any of these items, please let me know. I'm happy to follow up for you. Next is the county capital improvement plan. You'll remember a few years ago, DOLA had reached out to us and said, hey, you don't have a capital improvement plan. We really need you to have that in place so that we can keep giving you grant money. So we put together, they sent us a bunch of templates from all different size organizations, and we built the capital plan, and we've been maintaining it every year. And so I just wanted to give you an update of we're getting ready to present some recommendations to Patsy and Brian that they will then review and bring a recommendation to you as the board prior to adopting budget. So, and then I'm going to jump over. I'm going to introduce Zach Menz. He's our facilities director. I think he's on the screen, and I'll let him talk about the facilities department.
Thanks, Beth. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good. So I've met all of you so far. It's been almost a year since I took over for Matt Smith. And since then, we've kind of been working short-staffed, down by one person, kind of maintaining the county, each building. And as you guys all know, number of buildings that we have diminishes and then goes up and goes back and forth, of course. And we've been doing all that with the added difficulties of COVID, of course, keeping a clean, safe, and ready work environment for everybody, as well as doing our part to kind of keep those numbers down as best we can. During this time also, I've kind of inherited the job of trying to figure out where to place our coroner's office. We actually found a place for them at the Jordan House. That's one of our other buildings that had been sitting vacant, so it was nice to actually find a place for them to go, at least temporarily until we can get them in their new facility. So that's been going well. We've been taking care of that. I've been working closely with Beth as well on the EV charging stations at the courthouse. And I think we're doing that at the clinic as well, right, Beth? Yeah, okay, clinic as well. So that'll be nice. That'll be a good, as far as I know, good earner for the county if we do actually go with the charging. As well as our other various small capital projects. We've been doing the electrical upgrades at the courthouse. There's a few junction boxes and breaker boxes that are probably from the 60s, I think. So it'll be nice to get those out. Added security at the annex. That's another one that we're starting to work on pretty soon here, as well as drainage improvement at the sheriff's office. So it'll be nice to get some of those off our plate. I know we've had those for a while. And I'd like to take credit for those, even though, you know, even though I haven't been here that long. So I know Matt put in a lot of work, but I'll take the credit for him. That's fine. We're also working on getting consolidation of all the utilities for the county, different generators, including new ones at the clinic and a replacement at the ambulance stations, both in Dumont and Idaho Springs. Getting all the trash disposal for the county. So far, there's several different vendors that we use, and we're just trying to get it all consolidated into one vendor out of one budget for next year. So that'll be nice. As well as working to get that that water bill down for Georgetown, as you guys know. Any questions?
The only one I have is on, are we, and Ben, I don't know who the right person is to answer this. I know there is going to be, I know coming out of the Biden administration, of course, is in his infrastructure package is a huge amount of money for around 500,000 new charging stations around the US. Is that on our radar as an increasing resource right now that we are jumping on to be able to help? Because I know our intent is to expand that capability within the county. Are we tracking that particular, newly emerging resource aggressively?
I don't know about that one. We have been participating with the state in their Charge Ahead program. That's how we got the stations in the back lots. So, but I haven't received any information on the new infrastructure bill with the EV stations in it.
Well, I think there's going to be a pile of additional resource money for it's dumping out on top of what was already there. And so I just wanted that on our radar. If there's a place, if we can appropriately use it, and if there's a place to do it. And the reason I bring it up is because of not only our own, electrification of our own local shuttle fleet and trying to expand that and get the range, the range is pretty limited on the electric shuttles right now, in terms of how far they can go. But then additionally, be in our communication with the state on the Pegasus with, the Mustang expansion project, just at least so we're all on the same page on that and trying to maximize our efficiency and getting what we can done.
Yeah, we'll definitely dig into it and try and find as much info as we can.
And I don't know I think I may have already told you more than I actually know about it, so I should stop talking about it now. But I just, that it was brought to my attention by somebody that works down at FHWA that said, hey, there's going to be a ton dumping out on that. That's changing the train.
That's great. No, I'll look into it for sure.
I wanted to ask, can you go, well, a comment and then a question. One is, I think I want to invite our facilities staff to talk about whether they think that they can do maintenance on the clinic themselves, or if we do need to outsource that. Not a conversation I think we have time to jump into now, but I just want to invite staff to think about whether they think they can do that more efficiently than a company with a big profit margin.
Sure.
Yeah,
But I understand that to be an invitation for them to do an assessment so we can make a good decision about that. That's what
Right.
Right, George.
okay. Yeah, Zach and I will work on it and get some feedback for you.
Okay, I know that's, yeah. And then can you expand just a little bit? Because I wasn't aware, and I welcome that there's going to be charging stations at the new collaborative care center. Can you just describe a little bit about them and how they're being funded?
Yeah, so they were already in the design. They called us and said, "Hey, where's your charging stations?" and we said, "Oh, okay." So we were already under contract with Iconergy to put the charging stations at the courthouse, and we had already selected a model that we liked and was, efficient and kind of just, nice looking, and thought would be, get a I don't want to say an easy approval, but an expeditious approval by the different jurisdictions across the county where we'd have to get permits. So we picked a unit, and we just immediately called the clinic, Alliance Construction, back and said, okay, we have a unit that we're going to use. We'll have Iconergy put it in, because they said the electrical's already been plumbed out there. Everything's just waiting to put the station in place. So they had been waiting for us when we came on the project a few months ago.
Oh, okay. Great. So then this is just part of the capital budget?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was already built into the design with Trainer, and Alliance had already run all the infrastructure out to the site for the parking spaces by the time we got the call.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Zach. If there's no more questions for facilities, I'm going to jump over to the SGITW, smartest guys in the world, and that's what I call them. And this is the Information Technology Department. And I do want to introduce a couple people to you that are on the screen. One is David Prowse. He's one of our new IT techs down in the office, and we're very happy to have him. And the other one is with the Axiom Group. This is Patrick O'Fallon. You might have seen him around the building already. Both super skilled, helpful, patient and tolerant of me IT professionals. And I'm so glad to have them on our team. And I will let them talk about IT. Go ahead, guys.
Thanks, Beth. Yeah. So as you can tell, there's a lot of changes in the IT division. And what the biggest one you're seeing right here is 2 new people on the screen. So that's the key component. So David has started last month, and Axiom is kind of taken over in a bridge capacity to take off where John Bottomley has left off. So we've done a lot of work with Beth, and we've done a lot of work with a lot of these projects. But what I'll do is I'll kick it off to David to talk about some of the stuff he's been working on, and then a lot of the stuff is tactical and some of the stuff is strategic. The goal is to limit the acronym soup, and happy to follow up with any questions that you guys have. David?
Hello there. So I, with joining the team about a month ago, I pretty much am learning the ropes with the help desk and bouncing around the different facilities and onboarding all the county computers to an Axiom-based software that we will offer better remote support, and also updating the antivirus and making sure that the computers are up to date with their software, being Windows 10, and also the latest version of the Office suite. Where once we do get all those computers onboarded, then we're able to monitor them and easily remote into them now, as long as they're on our domain for the county. It's been pretty, I don't know, up and down as far as the busyness of being able to get to these locations and whatnot, some of them being more remote than others. But for the most part, the bigger buildings, we definitely got in there and got them underway and on board. So that's a good one. And then there's a lot of cleanup. We're getting ready to do some recycling, and that's a huge step. A lot of stuff that's been dated, and so just getting ready to move into the future.
Absolutely. So as David mentioned, there's some big tactical items and strategic items. The big one, as David mentioned, is onboarding with Axiom IT. Axiom IT is my company with me and my partners. So what this is kind of introducing is a collaborative IT department, 2 in-house resources, David and Lewis, and myself and my team, which is 5 resources, to be able to cross-train leverage resources, leverage subscriptions and relationship, and amplify what the division is doing. So I'm sure there's a ton of questions you guys can have there. But on top of that, there are some really cool stuff that we're already underway on. Beth and I have been speaking a lot, and I've been helping provide coverage to a lot of the different initiatives from the data plan at the clinic, the new clinic. There's some big takeaways on the clinic side. The county is now providing the internet service to that building, which opens us up to a lot of possibilities. The unfortunate piece is it's a little bit delayed given CDOT's mudslide in the canyon. But by this month, we should have full fiber optic capacity at the clinic, which allows the county to not have to pay subscriptions to CenturyLink for the internet, but it also allows them to sell that internet to the tenants and to potential internet service providers for the area. So that's a big, huge conversation and a big, huge victory because it did come with challenges. Another one that David mentioned is we're getting rid of a lot of the relics around here. So you might see some old we've seen some scanners. I mean, some of the stuff is been here for a long time, but we have created a secure destruction policy, Beth and I and Peter and his group, and they've updated the PII policy as a result. So if in case anyone wants to know how that's done, is where the IT group is gathering all of the relics of the old technology, bringing it to some secure locations. And we're contracting with PCs for People to do an NSED certified destruction of the data. So that's a really cool thing. And that's going to free up office space and maintenance space because these things have found themselves in the nooks and crannies of the county. We've also done a lot of work with some of the finance kind of challenges that have presented themselves trying to leverage some remote access tools for consultants getting in for COVID relief tracking, as well as for some of the changes in the finance department. We're working on the coroner's office relocation. Broadband enablement in that situation is challenging, but we're working through those challenges. And then we have a bunch of different projects that we're moving forward on. And the next big one is virtual desktop infrastructure to help amplify our solutions and not have to deploy desktops at every place. And it also increases our continuity of operations planning, which we can talk about as well. Yeah, and then the final point is we've got a lot of things going and happy to have some conversations. We've started working with Beth on budgets and catching up on where we were at with budgets and where we're going. And we are starting to provide some hybrid cloud options and public cloud options for deliberation on future budget cycles. So happy to answer any questions later on. And then we've already talked about this a little bit with the broadband update. But as Beth mentioned, we've been working and having meetings with DOLA, Idaho Springs, Georgetown. Beth and I, it's what we call building bridges. We're out there talking to people and saying, let's get broadband here. And DOLA was really wanting us to do it. So Idaho Springs, we'll have what's called a community anchor site, and that's awesome. So we're there, it's coming, and we'll be able to start pumping out that bandwidth. Georgetown, we've had conversations with the city manager about, town manager about, building a loop around Georgetown to help amplify services in the area, in which the county will be able to bring in providers to amplify what the community is able to have in the rural broadband initiatives. And we're also looking at other communities around the Clear Creek region, but those have been the main focal points, and we're about to see Idaho Springs get lit up.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That was great. Commissioners, I know you probably have a lot of questions for IT. It's been a hot topic lately, so feel free to ask, or if you want to schedule a separate session, we can do that as well. So
I do see one question that came in about when will Georgetown have availability. In terms of, we might need a little context to that question, but the main component is we're trying to get approval we're getting costs of construction and then moving to approval. So we're still at early phase with Georgetown, but those discussions are in the process. But in terms of availability for the community, that might be where the county brings in an internet service provider that works directly with the county or with the end users in the community, should that be the case. So I think we're still a ways out while the decision costing and decision making is there, but talks are happening and people are all made aware of the communication.
And as a side piece to that, just a reminder to everybody, the county did receive a $100,000 grant from DOLA to expand, they call it the C3 network in Georgetown. So we do have dollars waiting for this project to hit the ground, as Patrick said, with the design and construction costs, so that we know, what it's going to take to put that loop around Georgetown.
Yeah. And the big thing is there is such a demand. One thing that's been really apparent is there's a big demand. CenturyLink and Comcast have sort of owned the show for people for the longest time, and even for the county's IT costs. So we're actually working actively in the IT department and Beth to help activate county sites. Like we're actually looking at Brookvale to have some wireless internet powered there that will allow us to ditch CenturyLink in their high cost of service at that location and be able to use Thor internally. So it's a really cool thing for the county and for the community, and we're just very big advocates of it and happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Just had a real quick, first off, welcome, David. It's nice to have you on board. You mentioned Brookvale in my neighborhood, and I've been paying attention to what's going on with Quick Creek Broadband, and I think they're offering somewhere between like 50 and 100 meg service, and they've actually lit up a decent amount of their network and have some other towers going. So I'm curious to what degree we're in alignment or paying attention to what they're doing, because it seems like the idea of us creating broadband there when it already exists might be a little duplicative.
Great question. They're actually the person doing a site survey today at that location. So Clear Creek Broadband is the provider.
Oh.
And currently there are our provider that we've talked to about Idaho Springs even. So basically they'd be the provider. We don't have any internet service that we're providing in the region for Brookvale, but they are doing quotes and site surveys for Brookvale and of our other locations of the county. But they are the provider that is signing up potentially to be a ISP in Idaho Springs and leverage the county's fiber as their backend. So Clear Creek Broadband, we've already had some great partnership discussions, and they're very interested in helping partner as well as helping us leverage their higher speed internet at our sites.
Perfect, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any more IT questions? Okay, go ahead.
I just want to accept your offer to schedule a more dedicated time for us to talk about what's going on in IT.
Sure.
Really grateful to Axiom for coming in and providing, I think as you framed it, kind of bridge services, and curious about the future of the department and all that.
Sure.
Yeah, I just got a text message to remind you that our contract with Axiom is kind of a short term. It's just 3 months, I think. And we did want to come back and talk to you all about the path forward and how we choose to do that. And also the release of an RFP to, if we decide to retain Axiom permanently, what does that look like? And what does that RFP look like? So those will all be parts of that conversation. And Patrick and I have been talking about that. So just wanted to give you that quick update, and I will get something on the calendar, commissioners. So last but not least, we want to bring up the transit team, and I believe Anne Marie is on the screen as well. And I will just tell me when to change screens, Anne Marie, and I'll keep going through the slides.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we're excited. We do have our own training program implemented with the county and our drivers. We currently have 4 drivers that are doing the defensive driving and 2 drivers that can train for passenger assistance, safety, and sensitivity. We also have certified our drivers for first aid, the Narcan, which is an overdose treatment. If somebody comes on the bus and they are experiencing an overdose, they can use this product to bring them out of the overdose. And we've also done the CPR certification. Lately, since I've received this position here, I have done my fair share of educating myself and being on the same level as everybody else, and making sure that I'm up to par. So I did do the NACO high performance leadership master graduate program. I am also a certified community transit supervisor. I got my certificate in May. And I also am currently going to be taking the Transit 1 course with CASTA, and that's in a month. The feedback from riders has just been out of this world. It's been amazing. The drivers that we have are helpful and accommodating to everybody. Slide. So right now where we're going is we have requested 1 bus. We're in the process of requesting 2 more, an expansion to get down to Golden and get to the light rail. We did do the grant requests, so it'll be 80-20 for that. Let's see. So we're looking at the third-party expert to evaluate our program and our ridership. I'm actually looking forward to them coming in and helping out. I was approached also by Wellness for Seniors to provide ADA transportation to Denver for our county elderly and disabled. So we have been looking into that diligently to see if there's a way we can get them down to work and down to their doctor's appointments, because as SRC left, they haven't been able to do that. And VIA is not interested in working with Clear Creek. Let's see, we do have our SIRS audit in August, which I'm definitely preparing for. It's what I do almost every day. It's the federal review of all the operations. We are also going to be joining with Jeffco Mental Health to do mental health training for our drivers, so they're prepared for the riders that we do have and can have on occasion in the county. We have 5 drivers, including myself, signed up for the Fall CASTA conference, where we'll learn and get more educated for all the transportation needs that we need. And then we do have a billboard that we will be putting up in Dumont soon. So look for that.
I know we're running into our break here, but a couple of things from me. First, happy to see that you're talking about expanding into the light rail drop off in Golden. I think I see that you've requested funds to buy 2 additional buses.
Correct.
And I know we had some conversation about whether we would go with the size of bus we're using in county, or whether we would buy some buses that were smaller, lighter, more fuel efficient for that connection to Golden. Where did you land on that?
Right now, we're still looking at going to Golden, but we need to replace 2 of our older buses. Our 19 already has 125,000 miles on it. And our 16 has 197,000 miles on it. So we definitely need to get those replaced and upgraded. Our 15 actually has the lowest miles, and that's the Chevy. So we're hoping we can do a couple trips down to Golden with one of our new buses. I would prefer a van, but right now the easiest way for procurement for us, it's already done and set up, is for the buses.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we are talking with CDOT and the FTA representatives and consultants about the vans as well. That grant period just hasn't arrived yet. Right now, this grant cycle that's coming up now is for the buses. We are, it's one of those opportunities with this program that you don't let one of these grant opportunities go by without applying. I mean, the mileage, our service mileage is so much bigger than a lot of services that are out there, just because we're going from Silver Plume to Evergreen or Silver Plume to Golden. It's high mileage on the buses. And, every time there's an opportunity to apply for a bus, that's what we're trying to do. We do have a grant match that's involved, and we do make our request in the capital budget for the grant match request. And then we also try and, offset the cost as much as we can by getting as many grants as we can. The buses are not cheap. They're about $120,000 a piece. And that is to get them wrapped in the right tires and, all the right seating and the wheelchair security, all those things that go with it. So we are working with our consultants as much as we can. We are definitely talking about vans. The timeline right now is just not for the vans, it's for the buses. And that's why we're applying for those now.
So, and my question is that $120,000 includes the cost of tricking them out. Is that correct? And all the stuff that you do.
Yeah. Yes.
So from ground zero to on the ground operating, obviously not operational cost and maintenance, but to having them on the ground and heading out of the parking lot is 120 grand.
Correct.
Yes. And you know what? It is so crazy frustrating because it takes over a year to get the buses delivered. I mean, you go through the procurement process, you place the order, you run the RFP, then you place the order, and then you wait for about 8 months for it to get there, you know. So we don't want to let these grant cycles go by without trying, because
okay.
it could be
And the capacity on the bus is
14.
14. Okay.
Yep. And the buses that we modified them slightly so we can actually put down seats where there are wheelchairs. So if there's no wheelchairs and we fill the bus, we can fill the bus. But if we have wheelchairs, there's 2 spots for the wheelchairs.
And we do, yeah. We have the wheelchair riders already, so we want to retain that capacity for them as well.
And the vans you looked at are what capacity and what cost?
I don't know what the cost is yet. We were just, looking at the ones that still have the middle aisle and then the seating on each side. So my guess is 10, maybe, if we're lucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I bring this up every time, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it again. I drive a Yukon that's 17 years old that has 300,000 miles on it, and it works fine. So I'm a little concerned when we talk about a vehicle with what I consider to be not that many miles, and I would even say probably easy miles since they're highway miles. And I guess my question is, and what I would love to see is, what sort of financial underwriting or comparison did you do in terms of continue to operate our fleet versus replacing them? Because yeah, if it was my own personal vehicle, I would probably not be replacing it.
Yeah, I actually did bring that up with CDOT and the FTA. I brought up your exact same story. So, by the time we order and actually receive the buses, I mean, as Anne Marie said, we're around 120 or 150 right now. But by the time the new buses actually come in, we are already overextending the mileage that we're supposed to on the buses. Like Anne Marie said, we have I think a 2015 and a 2019 and
a 20. Yep.
Yeah. So, we're already going over the mileage that the feds recommend, and they're the ones who give us the money. So I kind of have to follow their rules. I mean, trust me, I'm like you, I would drive that car into the dirt, but I have to play by their rules, and their rules set these parameters for the age and the mileage of the vehicles. And that's why we're applying for these grants when the cycles come up, is so that we don't end up with no spare ratio or no bus at all. So
I think I understand that so because I kind of had the same reaction when you mentioned one of them, the 2019 at 129,000. The other one I kind of got a little bit, but when I heard the 129, that surprised me, because those kind of service vehicles are usually designed to be able to go a long time, and that seemed really low. But what you're telling me is, by the time you go through a grant cycle, by the time you place an order, and by the time you get the replacement vehicle back into that thing, it may have 200 to 300,000 miles on it.
So I just want to quick time check. 11 o'clock is in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Do we want to take our break?
I have one slide left, I think. It's up to you.
We should probably see that slide.
You're looking at it. We've doubled our numbers from 19 already as of July. Like, it's been crazy good. Ridership is great. Our drivers are great. They're accommodating. We're super proud of our numbers. And since we started our new route as of yesterday, we're expecting to even grow faster and more. And note on the mileage for the vehicles, we are doing about 23,000 miles a month total. That's total, but it's a lot of miles that we cover. But this is our new bus. You guys have probably seen it around town. People like it. It's bold, it's bright, you can see it. Everybody's excited about it, and you can't miss it.
Yeah, I know.
I would like to just reinforce what George said, and I think there may be a place in our offering for smaller, more nimble, cheaper to operate, more comfortable buses, particularly if our ridership averages are more like 2 or 3 or 4 people versus 12 or 13.
And the reason I asked the question was I thought I would, I think you're right, and I don't think I'll find anything new that's a benefit, but I am going to check back in with Mike Timlin and see what they were deploying in the Pegasus program and just see what's out there in terms of their expected longevity and their setups, because they're taking those Sprinter type Ford vans. I mean, and they found them to be the most cost effective way to move people on the highway. And especially if we're trying to do a run from Silver Plume to Golden, like that.
Yeah.
And you may know every single bit of that, Beth. I'm not saying that. I mean, that's just because what I've been working on, popping through my head. And I'm probably going to find out it's $1 million to buy something that carries half as many people. But
Yeah.
I'm going to run that. I'll run that down in the next day or so and run that over to you, whatever I find out.
No, that'd be great. I was going to say, if they already have a state pricing agreement, I'd love to know about it. That would be fantastic.
They're
If
getting
they're not already electric, they will be before the larger ones.
I know.
Well, that's what the case is the reason they choose those vans is because those very models that Ford is looking at, by the time they run their cycle and replace those vans, they're going to come back in with those, but they'll be electrified. And they'll be electrified in a way that will be able to perform on the highway and run with the Audis and everything. So let's just find out what's out there. And because it could be we could collaborate with them in a purchase or something like that, because they are actually deploying. They've already ordered and they are deploying in December. So
excellent. That's great.
Okay. Thank you, Internal Services Division. Appreciate your time here. It's now 11 o'clock. Would you prefer to take the break, or should we move right into the business that's scheduled for 11?
Your call, or somebody's. I'm good either way.
Well, I see we have Tim is already signed in here. So why don't we go ahead and bring him over, and let's just do the COVID-19 update. Dr. Ryan, thank you for joining us. This is our regularly scheduled COVID-19 update. What do you have for us?
Lots of numbers that were produced last Friday. So let's begin with those nationally. And again, these are 4 or 5 days old now. So 35.5 plus million confirmed cases across the United States. Case rate, new case rate is now in excess of 125,000 per day as a 7-day average, a 25,000 case per day jump from just 5 days ago. 40% increase in the average number of hospitalizations over the last week. Fatalities, we are now at 617,000 plus deaths across the United States. Current rate is well over 500 per day as a 7-day average. Test positivity rate across the United States is in excess of 11%. Major contributing factors to the spread: the unvaccinated and the Delta variant. Absolutely losing combination. Colorado trend, the current number of daily cases continues to rise over the last 5 weeks, now in excess of 1,300 per day as a 7-day average. 2-week cumulative incident rate is at 198 per 100,000. Hospitalizations, there's been a 29% in, again, these numbers are 5 days old, so absolutely none of what I'm saying is true anymore, These numbers now are in excess of all of these numbers I'm telling you. 29% increase across the state over the last week. Currently, 34% of ICU ventilators are in use and 84% of hospital ICU beds. Just as a reminder, we share our hospital capacity with all the states around us that don't have any. Wyoming is a key player in that reality. So, hospitalizations, it's now in excess of 500 currently confirmed COVID cases hospitalized across the state of Colorado. Test positivity rate is at 5.4%. Contributing factors, the unvaccinated and the Delta variant. Here in Clear Creek County, our case count, we actively have 18 cases currently in the county. Highest we've been in a very long time. Currently hospitalized 25, 3 fatalities. Our 2-week cumulative incident rate is in excess of 200 per 100,000. Our test positivity rate is now at about 10%, I believe. Contributing factors, the unvaccinated and the unvaccinated, social gatherings, etc. Testing updates, we're continuing to test Tuesdays from 10 to 2 in Idaho Springs. We're also testing weekly in the jail, and we'll continue testing in the school system in the very near term when school starts up again next week. Vaccine update in our county, we are a little over 65% vaccinated with 1+ dose, and now 60.9% fully vaccinated across our county. Vaccines, we are continuing to have clinic. We have one this Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we will not have one because we're supposed to move and trying to juggle around that unfortunate reality. But the Safeway in Idaho Springs has vaccines available every day of the week and have for 7 months, as does the Safeway in Evergreen, as well as the Walmart. So there's no shortage of vaccines available around us. And we are going to continue to do that as long as we have individuals show up for those clinics. Any questions so far?
I mean, there's something that I would like to discuss. Well, maybe we can do it at the end of your report.
That's the end of my report.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, we do have a question in writing here. Any word on boosters to the Jackson and Johnson & Johnson recipients? Is there a booster shot available for the J&J?
There's not a booster shot available for any of them at this point. I know we've been inundated with questions and requests for booster shots for those who have already been fully vaccinated. And moving forward, until we have federal approval to do those sorts of things, we cannot administer a booster shot. And so until that happens, the short answer is no, we don't have them available for Moderna, Pfizer, or J&J. The only one I'm aware of that is in production or working on is the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines.
Okay, thank you. And then I just want to acknowledge the written comments from Deanne Powell, Georgetown Board of Selectmen. We saw these last week too. We hear you loud and clear. And I agree with you. It would be great if we had testing and vaccines available at every town and fire station. Not sure that that is a goal that we can get to, but it would be nice. So I just want to acknowledge that we are seeing you.
Yeah, I agree. So here's the reality of both of those things. The testing that we have in our county is through a state contract. So the contract is direct with the state and that vendor. So in order to have testing available in every single spot in our county, that would require the state implementing that and expanding the offerings that the state has. Right now, that's not a reality. I mean, we had testing available for months on end, and we had maybe a handful of folks to show up at any given day. So it's quite expensive to have people stand in a parking lot for what is 6 hours a day to have only a handful of people show up. We don't know when people are going to show up to get tested or vaccinated. And therein lies the problem. We've had for many, many months now vaccines available. We've been to every single corner of the county and provided vaccines in a number of different ways. We've been to several locations several times, and we'll continue to do that. But when we allocate resources to go somewhere and only 2 or 3 people show up and we're there for 2 or 3 hours, it's a significant use of resources. And given our case counts right now, our nurses are working full time to try to keep up with the active cases and contact tracing. We're not foregoing that, like many counties have. We're going to continue to do that. So vaccines are readily available 7 days a week. As we just heard on the previous presentation, there is transportation that's free of charge to take you to a vaccine almost every day of the week. So there's that.
It seems that the vaccine availability is pretty good. I think the testing between 10 and 2 on 1 day a week is a little difficult for some people, but because of their availability to get approved and scheduled at different places, and I'm not trying to denigrate in any way the efforts that you're putting on, the factors that you're bringing up. I know that that the COVID itself doesn't schedule itself on a weekly basis, and so the timing of the vaccine, or not vaccine, excuse me, testing is can be a little critical. We got it all worked out in our case, where we'd had a family reunion where everyone was supposed to be vaccinated and one person wasn't, and then there was a kind of an outbreak and one of our family got it. But getting one of our members tested took days before we could get it done, and so it made it a little harder. But there are plenty of other places around. It's just a matter of timing. And so for our family, we had the capability to eventually get there, but it took 2 or 3 or 4 tries to get one of our family members to a place that would accept them and test them. And it was kind of so it would be nice to be able to have that testing. And I think the midday part from 10 to 2 is what makes it difficult for some people too, like when they're in a meeting like this on Tuesday. But it just happened to be one of the commissioner's family members that we were having trouble with. So.
And we can talk with the state and COVID check and see if we can push those hours to a 3 to 6 or 2 to 6 that would accommodate folks after work sort of thing.
Yeah,
but multiple locations I think will be quite challenging. Expanding the hours, we can talk to them and see what they say. But if you're feeling symptomatic, I would stay home and isolate. If you have a known exposure and you are feeling symptoms, getting a test isn't going to really change your reality. If you are in fact symptomatic, you need to stay home and isolate and do the right thing in that case. So that advice hasn't changed.
And that was not the case. It was a case of not being symptomatic and wanting to be absolutely certain that we were not asymptomatic carriers, not for our own protection, because we were all vaccinated, but for the protection of the community, since we had people in our family who we had just been with who were testing positive. And it's like, okay, we've got an obligation to shutter the door, lock ourselves in until we know we're cool. And so that's where it was at. So it really, all I'm speaking to, I think, with the hours of 10 to 2 made it a little difficult. If I can understand the need to only have it 1 day a week because of resources and contracts, the hours was what made it a little difficult when you had that one little tiny window to get into.
I have a quick related question. I was in Walgreens the other day, and I saw 3 different types of COVID tests that a person could self-administer. I know we have funds that are available for addressing the COVID issue. Is there a way that we could pursue that to make it more convenient for people?
I would strongly discourage that, Sean, and here's why. COVID is a reportable disease. It is required by state statute that you report it to the state. What we're finding is when you can go to Walgreens and get a self-test and you test and you're positive, the recording rate of those folks is quite low. So not knowing of a case out in the community from public health perspective where we can do then contact tracing has become quite a problem. So there's lots of cases out there that we're now unaware of because of this convenience that is now at Walmart and Walgreens, or where I'm sure they're available at Walmart too. in all other places. So that's the challenge it presents for public health, that there's now cases out there who are identified through self-testing at home, but don't bother to report it to the state as is required by state statute. So
I would gently challenge that, because I think there are people who aren't getting tested at all. And so that's not reported. And if they're going to be tested, at least have the knowledge that they have it or don't have it. I don't see that. I see that as a benefit, at least to the person who's concerned about having COVID.
Sure.
And I did find at Walgreens that that is ultimately where we got our one family member tested, and that's what it took after about 3 or 4 tries at other places to get on. And even Walgreens, it was, waiting another day and driving to the far edge of Denver, because I was pretty surprised that the bulk Walgreens that were close to me had no. I was shocked to find out that as few people as seemed to be interested in getting tested, that there were no scheduling availability. So we had to drive to, the southeast part of Denver to find one available within a 24-hour time frame that suited us. So.
And this test, I mean, I don't know how accurate they are, but there were 2 or 3 different ones. It was something that you bought and took home and I think mailed away to a location. But anyway, I probably said more about that in as far as needed.
And clearly ours was not self-administered. It was one that Walgreens does
Yeah.
offer on site, and that's what we went to. That's what we needed. And so anyway, but we got it done. And so it's just the 10 to 2 is the only thing I was really bringing up, and we've been on that for a while.
Yeah, and maybe the comments that I'll add are that when you have a test positivity rate above 5%, that indicates that you're not testing enough. And I think looking at the nationwide and statewide stats, I think that indicates it's a nation and statewide problem as well as a local one. I'm interested in public health. You have my support when it comes to using resources to make testing available more broadly. Although I would hope that the state and federal government are having these conversations as well, because we are in the middle of a spike. And that means that once again, we've got to find ways to make testing available to people. So I'll just leave it at that. I do, and that's all of that. Maybe the grain of salt I'll throw alongside that comment is that, Tim, you mentioned that need to spend resources on contact tracing. That is critically important. There's not really much point in testing if you're not going to do the contact tracing. And so to the, looking for your guidance here, but please know that if you think we need more testing, and this data seems to indicate we need more testing. So if you think there's a way we can get that done, you've got my support.
Yeah, mine as well. If it's a resource issue, we expressed that obviously 1.5 years ago and got on it. So if your judgment, and I still trust Tim's judgment above any of ours, completely. If your judgment is that if you could, you would, let us know what you need.
absolutely. Like I said, I'll reach out to the state and understand what the possibilities are in terms of both expanding hours, but also expanding potential locations, days, et cetera, and then go from there. So if there are state resources, I would much prefer to tap into those first than our own. And so we'll follow that course of action. So I wish demand for vaccines was equal to that of testing in the unvaccinated.
That's another thing for us to consider, is that a lot of policies are coming out saying, if you want to have a job here, you need to be vaccinated or you need to get tested a couple times a week. And so we might see testing demand continue to increase.
Wish that would apply itself to the vaccine demand more than and I'm not denigrating what you're saying at all, George. I completely agree with it. I'm just thinking I wish it would just make everyone hyper enthusiastic that wasn't vaccinated to get there. But
So I'm curious, Tim, you mentioned that you're delivering data from Friday. My understanding is the intent behind that is so that the data you're delivering can make it into the packet. And so I wanted to just have a conversation about whether we prefer, seems like there's a trade-off between data that was generated on Friday that is more transparent, that's available to the public in writing, versus data that is more fresh and helpful for policy discussions on a Tuesday.
Well, can I offer a thought on that?
Go ahead.
I personally would like to see it in the packet that goes out on Friday. But there's nothing stopping us from updating those numbers in terms of what we present on Tuesday. That way, those who want to read the packet beforehand have the opportunity to do so. And I see a little smirk on your face there, Tim. I think we need to give the board, those who want to read the packet beforehand, an opportunity to do so. And so we were already producing this document on Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, all of these weeks leading up to this packet right here. So I don't think it would be too much of a burden to update those numbers between packet going on Friday and the meeting on Tuesday.
I agree with that. And I think probably most times it's not a huge difference. And in that case, there's probably no like last minute update even necessary, in my opinion. I mean, we've been doing this for a year and a half and we're talking about a difference of a few days.
I think we saw, just for reference, I just checked, our case rate per 100,000 jumped by 50 between Friday and Monday, or Friday and Tuesday. So I don't know. I mean, I like having the fresh data. Of course, I can get it. I'm 10 seconds away from it at any time. Anyway, other thoughts?
From my perspective, I would prefer to not do the work twice in 4 days, followed 4 days later by the same thing again and again. It's difficult for me to read numbers that I know are not true anymore in presenting them. If you want old data, I'm happy to give you old data. If you want new data, I'm happy to give you new data. But doing it twice in 4 days, because it isn't just, I have to literally look up all the numbers again. It isn't just a quick edit. I have to go and look and did that number change? Why did it change? How did it change? It's not just a enter a different number, clerical task.
I
So
guess
whatever your preference is.
one comment I would make is getting the numbers during the actual BOCC meeting is not very useful to me because oftentimes we're engaged in conversation and I don't even have a chance to look at it. So the only time I look at it is when the meeting starts, and I would love to see something in the packet, and I appreciate the desire not to do it twice, and I personally am fine with not having it twice, but rather from Friday.
And another alternative is to be okay with it coming out on a Monday night. That way, at least you have an opportunity to review it before the board meeting on Tuesday.
Yeah, I agree with the idea of Tim doing it once. And I like having it as recent as possible. I think that I would say, you know, if I have to be surprised on Tuesday morning, I'll live with it and I'll process it as I see it. And if we feel it's best to compromise on Monday night, my preference is to have the more recent information to be able to know what's going on at the moment we're talking about it.
Okay. I don't think I have a preference strong enough for me to think we need board direction on this. I think I value the freshness of data on Tuesday morning. But I really do think it's valuable to make sure that whatever we do, it's in the packet, it's in writing. People who want to watch the packet can read it. You know, not so much for me, but for members of the general public.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like with those comments, unless anybody else has any other, we can just kind of let staff figure it out.
Well, and and with due respect, I think what that ends up leading us back around to is full circle almost to, I mean, I still think that Tim doing it once is sufficient based on his explanation. So figure it out in the way that we have the freshest data we can. And if it doesn't appear in the packet until, I mean, if we're okay seeing it by Monday night, if that's fresh enough, then maybe that's okay for the public too. And that's what I would say. If it's Friday, then we're where we are right now. And if it's something fresher than that, then everybody, including both ourselves and the public, will have to see it later than Friday. That's all.
Okay. Other questions for Tim or comments?
Oh, I'm about as clear as mud. When would you like it?
We're gonna put it out on Monday, close the business.
Monday. Okay, perfect. That's fine with me.
And that would make it into the online packet, I take it? Because that's generally what I look at the night before this meeting.
I think what we'll do is we'll update the online packet on Monday.
That's perfect.
That doable? Is that doable, Beth?
Maybe. You know, it takes a good hour to change all the attachments in the packet. So I just, you know, I want to make sure that when we get the information, we have enough time during the day to make that happen before like 6:30 at night. So
Which is a great,
Are we asking if there's one addition to the packet that would be made, which would be the addition of a COVID data update on Monday evening? And is that as onerous a task as you're describing to us?
yeah, I mean, it's not, you know, it's not just, you know, making a cut and like Tim was saying earlier, not just a clerical change. It's an upload to the website and revision of documents that have already been saved as a package on the website. So basically I have to go back into the website, open the package, revise it, add to it, resave it again, upload it again. So I want to make sure that if we do that, we have enough time in the day, you know, and I mean, I'm happy, like if we get a fresher update from Tim Monday late afternoon or something, I'm happy to email it to you all, but I would not be able to, you know, have it all uploaded into the packet Monday night for the public to view. I mean, I could, but it would be late, way after work.
That's the balance we're trying to strike here, right? Is
Yeah.
if Tim has to do the data twice in order to get into a packet, which is quite frankly, I think where it should be, so the public can see it that way. Or it's creating additional work for Beth to do it later. You know, it's 6 to 1, half dozen of the other.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Brian, however you choose to strike the balance is, I think, fine with me. And if I have comments in the future, I'll express them.
Okay.
Great. Other topics? I note that, I'll just note that we're only a few cases away from being at 300,000 cases per 100,000. And our test positivity rate.
I think you meant 300, George. Sorry. Yeah.
What did I say? I meant 300.
300,000 for 100,000.
300,000 for 100,000 is a lot.
That's a tough. Now we're in trouble if that's the case.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, I mean, we're really growth that matches the growth that we had last week would mean that next week we hit our snapback metric. And obviously that's the agreement that we had made was that we would have a meeting about it. And that meeting might need to be next week. Is just something that, I mean, looking at the growth rates in the data, Tim, am I getting something wrong?
Not at all. We're headed in the absolutely wrong direction. County, state, federal, the whole country.
And I know I expressed last week that I would prefer to have a conversation about mask mandates before a conversation about capacity limits. And I would prefer to have that conversation regionally rather than thinking that decisions affecting 10,000 people are going to affect even those 10,000 people.
I think I think everything you're saying is really, really important. We're getting dangerously close to needing to talk about where we were a year and 15 months ago.
And of course, we're not scheduled for next week. So.
Well, we may have to call a special meeting at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I think that stands, right? If we hit 300,000 and the test positivity rate that we saw, we're going to call a meeting. And we're going to talk about what to do about it.
Right. That can be any day of the week, depending on the severity of the news.
Okay. Yeah, we can cross that bridge when we come to it. There's a second virus that I hesitated to mention, but it's the virus of ignorance, and it is running rampant in this country. The consumption of misinformation, what is sent to me from individuals in the community in terms of the self-selected expert on YouTube that they proclaim as knowing everything, is absolutely out of control. We have jumped 20,000 cases per day on an average over the last 4 days. Going into last winter, we're 40,000 cases a day from that high in this country. So currently our trajectory is that. And there's absolutely no indication in the near term what is going to turn that trajectory around. So it is conceivable that we pass where we were last winter. And when our northern neighbors like Wyoming, who don't have a medical infrastructure, where a significant portion of the population is completely unvaccinated, they have no public health measures in place whatsoever, are inundating the Colorado hospitals because they don't have any. I think, we need to have a more serious conversation more broadly in this country, which is what it is. But I'm not sure what the answer is in this country, because the level of misinformation out there that's being consumed in driving people's decisions is historically at an absolutely frightening level, in my opinion. When experts are ignored and people on YouTube and their self-proclaimed expertise are suddenly the primary source of information, I think we have a problem as a country.
We almost made it through a meeting without standing up straw man and jumping up on a soapbox and saying hyperbolic things such as Wyoming doesn't have any hospitals. I think we really need to stick to the facts and stick to the science when we have these conversations.
The people that I see on YouTube calling Tim, on Facebook right now, calling Tim names, really insulting names, and proclaiming themselves to be experts, are using that same language. And Sean, I don't think you're one of the people that thinks like that, and I've certainly never heard you call Tim a name, but I am listening. All I'm trying to do right now is listen carefully to the information that he's giving us. And on the news the other night, I saw that we have hospitals in Colorado, because our ICU beds are not overwhelmed, accepting patients from other states whose ICU beds are now becoming full, where the current spike is taking a heavier toll. And I think all he's doing is bringing to our attention that if that's the case, then the stuff I'm seeing on network news and all over the place is also hyperbolic, because it was pretty frightening information when we learned that all we were trying to do is keep our hospital capacity from becoming overwhelmed, and this spike is not abating. So I think before calling Tim hyperbolic or dishonest and contributing to the illusion that people who declare themselves experts on Facebook are following the science and Tim is not, I want to make sure that we as a county commission in this meeting declare that that is not our position, that Tim is not the person not following the science, and that self-proclaimed experts on Facebook are. And I just want to say that if we have to establish how we feel about that, I'm happy to do that.
I'm just saying, Tim said there's no hospitals in Wyoming. That's completely false. And I'm just, it pushed me a little bit over the brink. And this is something that I've been annoyed about for weeks. And I appreciate your passion, Tim, but you need to be a truth teller, and saying things like that, that's just not factual. And it discredits all the other, it somewhat discredits all the other good information that you throw out there.
For the record, I didn't state Wyoming doesn't have hospitals. They have,
You do.
they have a,
Listen to the recording.
Excuse me, can we let Tim
for several weeks, what I've stated, Sean, is that the medical infrastructure in Wyoming is incredibly limited. They literally have a handful of ICU beds. Do they have a hospital? Yes. Can they manage these folks who are now in critical care condition? Absolutely not. They are now coming to Colorado, as they have historically, for medical care, and are now inundating many of the hospitals in our state. Are they taking over the entire state? No, that isn't what I'm suggesting in a hyperbolic way. What I'm suggesting, and the fact is, they have very limited, incredibly limited resources from a medical infrastructure perspective, and they are relying on states like Colorado. And a lot of people in Colorado don't understand why it is that our hospitals are overwhelmed, because Colorado rates aren't where they should be given that hospitalization. The reality is these folks are coming from other states and filling our hospital beds here in Colorado. This is the message I'm trying to relay to others and trying to relay to the public. I'm not trying to blow things out of proportion. I've tried to stick to the facts for the last 16 months or 15 months that I've been here, and only relay facts.
Yeah, this is one of those conversations that needs to happen every once in a while. And I know sometimes I make statements in the middle of broader statements that are, you know, narrowly inaccurate. And I think we should kind of let that one rest. That's my suggestion to us.
Yeah, I think that if I missed a word, if there was a word of inaccuracy in what Tim said, what I picked up out of the generality, rather than let it rest, George, and I'm sorry, is that generally speaking, what I've heard him describe that's happening, I'm seeing from multiple sources other than social media, which seemed like more credible sources, like the directors of the ICUs of hospitals in Denver, saying that our ICU is not full, but becoming stressed because of the patients we are receiving, both COVID and otherwise, from other states, because their ICUs are becoming full of COVID patients, and they are now full and have no more ICU beds in certain of the larger cities in other states, and that those are coming to our ICU. So I believe those ICU and hospital directors that are being interviewed on the news. So the generally, you know, 99%, and without it going back and listening to the recording, I can't say it's not 100% of what Tim said matches up with everything I heard in the last week. So I think he's pointed out that we need to be really careful, and George has pointed out, and we've all acknowledged that we might need to have meetings because we're going to be in a snapback position, and in a position that is equally dangerous to where we were 15 months ago, in a closer time than we realize. And I hope that's not true, and I hope we don't have to go back to the kinds of restrictions we had, and I hope that we have things available to us, but it's our job to be as vigilant going forward as we were last year. That's all I have to say.
I think everybody heard what I said and understood it, and I'm going to follow George's suggestion and just leave it there.
Once again.
Okay. I will acknowledge the frustration associated with watching this emergency continue to spiral, and watching us come back into a state where we're in an emergency. And during that period of time, watching organizations who refer to themselves as news agencies, such as Fox News, cast doubt, sow fear about these vaccines, and generally provide misinformation about this public health crisis. And I'm frustrated by it. Tim, I know you're frustrated by it. Wish there was something that we could do about that, but there's just not. We're gonna have to keep soldiering on. I do have, let's let this be the final question because I've seen it come up twice. I think I know the answer. Have we detected any of the Lambda variant in Clear Creek County?
As of today, the answer is no. So the state lab is sequencing thousands of samples a day from across the state. And as of this morning, they had not yet detected Lambda. It's been around for a little while, but just like Delta, it has the potential to literally explode over the course of weeks. So it is certainly one that the state lab is aware of and are testing for and sequencing for on a daily basis, as are any other variants that may arise, both in the United States and across the world. So they're actively working on that, and they're doing surveillance sequencing every single day of the week in samples they get from across the state.
Thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thanks to the public. Thanks to you, Dr. Ryan. I don't believe, I'm just checking, I don't believe we have anything else on the agenda. Okay. Seeing none, seeing no call for executive session, we're adjourned. Have a great day, everyone.